So I think as a leadership team, what we decided to do was we went back to our values, say, no, we are not going to be mandating our staff to do this. But at the same time, we want to make sure that they do, we encourage them to. So we try to understand what are the issues that are making them not to go the vaccination route. So we did a survey. We always do everything based on data. And that data has helped us to understand the interventions. Some of the myths that people were having around the vaccine thing. So we've been bringing experts every Friday for 1 hour. I chair that meeting, and I bring in an expert for 30 minutes discussing a particular topic or an issue around COVID-19. And then we have 30 minutes of Q&A. So we're dealing with these things every time. So that has helped people to have better knowledge about the subject. As a result, you can see the results. Many of our staff have chosen to go this route.
All
but we are just like part of society. A number of our people, about 15% of them, still feel they don't want to go the route.
Yeah, it's an important conversation, I think, for the country, as Fifi was making the point around Busa now trying to go to court to try to get some kind of guidance in terms of dealing with the vaccinated and then unvaccinated at the workplace.
Yes.
In terms of those that are vaccinated within your organization, can you give us a profile of the ones that are sort of agreed to it? Is there a difference between men and women? Is there an age issue here? What did you see?
So what we saw based on the result was that, unlike what is happening in South Africa, nationally, most of our men, actually about 55% men, were vaccinated in Altron. So that's the first thing. The other group that was vaccinated, the 50 plus, most of those were vaccinated.
I'm raising my hand.
The big problem that we had is the young generation.
Sure.
From 35 below. That's where we had the biggest issues. And those were the people who were saying, we're not going to, and we think we're going to be, we're fine. So we spent a lot of time and effort to try and tackle the issues related to that particular group.
All right. I see how you were looking at me when he said the young people. I just turned 35. I'm apparently no longer considered part of the youth. But nonetheless, Mteto, let's just talk about the pandemic's impact on your business.
Yes.
Because we did see there were areas in your business that did really well if you look at what revenue did, and there are areas that kind of fell behind.
Yes.
So just talk to us about where the main pressure points were and what the situation at Altron is looking like now, 2 months from your year end.
Yeah. So there are really two groupings here. There are those businesses that have been thriving during COVID-19, and they continue to thrive. And these are what we would call own platform business, our financial services, the fintech team, the health tech team, even to some extent our telematics business has been thriving in this. The area where we have been challenged is where we depend on the capital expenditure from our customers. The customers, many of them, it's like they're frozen CAPEX. There's significant reduction, even in areas like cybersecurity. These are areas that are even more so required during this time. People have put they're frozen their spend in those areas. So this is a big challenge. To me, it talks to the confidence people have around South Africa.
How much of this is frozen expenditure and how much of it is increased competition in your market? Because we look at the digital transformation that had to happen in the past 18, 19 months as a result of lockdowns forcing remote working. And I imagine that companies that have not embarked on this process already are either have their doors shut or are headed fast to there. So I'd like to understand what competition you're seeing out there, perhaps in the cloud offering side of the business, and whether you are able to catch up on lost ground, given that a lot of these companies have already started this process.
Yeah. So what we're seeing, Fifi, is that many of the projects are not being cancelled, or we're not losing them to our competitors. In fact, no, they are not being awarded to anybody, right? They are just being delayed by companies. And those that are being awarded, our win rate is actually continuing to go up, which is a good thing. But what's concerning us is the speed, decisions that are being postponed. That's where the challenges are.
Sure. Okay. I was waiting for Fifi to kick on with her results issues, because I'm going to take you out of there very slightly and talk about what you are dealing with the organization in terms of trying to grow it. So Bytes is out of the picture.
Yes.
And as Fifi was mentioning in her introductory remarks, and has done very well indeed. In terms of that portfolio, is that work done?
The work with regards to Bytes UK is out of our business. So that's done. We've done the demerger. It's got a leadership team that's doing a fantastic job in leading an independent entity.
Sure. You still retain a shareholding?
We did not retain anything.
We completely.
We are out of that business completely.
Okay.
Yeah. So now our focus is what we call Altron 2.0.
Right.
And here we've got what we call 3 segments. One is managed services, the other one is digital transformation, the other one is own platforms. The area that is going to be our future is this digital transformation.
Right.
That's where you will be seeing us growing. We're expecting double-digit growth in that space. And that's where you will be seeing us making investments. Like right now, we've just done an acquisition, Law Trust.
Yes.
It falls within that space. Last year, we did an acquisition. It was called Ubusha. Again, it falls within that space, And the year before, we acquired Carabina, Altron Carabina. It also falls within that space.
Yeah. So I looked at the numbers very quickly, and my little calculation said to me 40% of the revenues within that Altron 2.0 came from own platforms. In terms of the future composition and structuring of that portfolio, where would you like to see managed services sit, given this is the area where you are growing?
So the area that is going to be the one that contributes the most in terms of revenue growth and even the size is going to be digital transformation.
Okay.
But from a profitability standpoint, from the profit, you'll see most of the profits coming from own platforms, although they are not going to be growing as fast.
Right.
But because in own platform, that's where we are having, is our own intellectual property.
Right.
So our margins in that business are much higher.
Yeah. Got you.
Whereas the other ones we're building, we're putting together technologies. Some of those technologies are ours, some of them are not ours. So the margins are a bit low.
Got you.
But that's where the growth is.
I'd like to circle back to the comment that you made about digital transformation and about the fact that companies are not spending as much as they should in this space, even in the areas of cyber security, because of lack of confidence, quote. A lot has happened. The administration has tried to do a lot through what was uncharted waters, leading through a pandemic, and also making sure that policies that came on the table and initiatives that came on the table were a lot more business friendly to encourage confidence. So where are the gaps in your view, if we're still talking about a situation of poor confidence?
Look, if you look at some of our decisions that we're making as a country, just think about the spectrum issue. Have we sorted out the spectrum issue? We have not sorted it out. We keep saying, next year and this year, in 6 months' time, we're going to sort it out. That is a big problem. That one decision alone, if we can just close that, it will unlock so much potential for South Africa. It will significantly reduce the cost of communication. I'm just talking about a person in rural areas. It will impact them directly because the cost to make a call will come down. And that frees up that money for them to do other things. If you multiply all of that across the economy, there's so much that can be driven by that one decision alone. It's decisions like that are creating a problem. Are we really privatizing or not privatizing some of these SOEs? It's so good to see the bold decision that has been made around SAA, but you can also see the pressure that they have from many of the people, in particular the trade unions around that decision. We need to be moving very much boldly in that direction, because things in private hands, there is this thing of efficiency. We get that, What is it that we as citizens of this country want, really? We want efficient services that are cost effective. That's just really what we want. We do not care whether it's this thing done by government or not. If it meets those things, is it efficient? Is it available all the time? Is it cost effective? That's all we're interested in. We have seen how some of these resources or some of these organizations being managed by public sector, how they are contributing negatively. Our decision around energy as well, You see the mixed messages, one from Minister Gwede Mantashe around this thing. We had people coming from all over the world, coming to help South Africa to move away from the coal thing. It's such a good thing. We need to be embracing those people. And yet we're coming up with positions which are talking completely against that. We can open up a new economy just around solar, which will spark so much growth, So these are the things that are creating a problem for the business community.
Yeah. Okay. Talking about the state and its involvement or lack of involvement in areas that are crucial. What are your thoughts around this whole spectrum? I'm going to call it warfare, but I was talking with the girls in the newsroom the other day, and I said, it's an imbroglio, girls, and they said, what? What is that? But that's what it is, isn't it? Total confusion. And I am saying somebody is missing from that conversation. The name of that somebody is government. Government is represented by the Minister of Communications. What are your thoughts as an industry leader? And don't you think perhaps here what we need is a messenger or somebody being bigger than the other person and say, for the sake of the country, let's resolve this outside of the courts, because the court process we know can take a long time.
Yeah. It does look to me like that now many of our players in the industry are exactly on your point, saying that, hey, if we continue along this route, we're not going to go anywhere. We all need the spectrum to be, So I've seen Telkom, I've seen MTN and many others, starting to make some shifts, which are positive shifts in my mind. We do need to make sure that there is an alignment with ICASA as well, because that's where most of the issues come in, where ICASA takes a position that is completely not aligned with that one of industry. We need to co-create some of these things, right? Before we go out and announce certain things, let's sit down together, let's agree on how to get there, addressing some of the challenges. And when we're announcing something that is kind of like agreed, That's where I think we should be going.
Have you tried to reach out?
Oh, since my days in MTN, this is one of those things that I've been trying to do. So I'm not even trying, I've been doing, it's just, the problem sometimes is the politics. It's not about the economics of anything. It's the politics behind the spectrum, because some people perceive as that there's some money to be made out of that.
Can we move away from the politics of the spectrum? Just a quick sec. I want to talk about the politics of the supply chain and the kind of interruptions that you are experiencing globally. You do make reference of it in your statement, but just to give us a feel of where the pressures are and what this could mean for your business and pricing for your clients.
Sure. This is one of those areas, Fifi, where we've got big challenges, because globally there is a shortage of components. So whether you're making cars or TV or anything, it's a challenge right now, because the electronic components are in short supply. And they're in short supply because the country that generally builds these things is China. And because of some of the issues between China and the US, it has made some of these components to be short throughout the world. So that's negatively impacting us. You're talking about the number of cars, new cars being sold, they've come down because of the shortage. Not the demand of cars, it's because of the shortage. The same thing with us in Netstar. The amount of devices we're able to put in those cars is less because we cannot get the supply that we need. So that's the one thing. The other part is you need to ship things from one country to another. So the ships, we find that the ships are stuck because of COVID, are sitting in the wrong place. They are stuck maybe in the Netherlands or in the US, wherever they should be they should be sitting in China. So to now try and get a ship to move, the cost of just moving things around has escalated, increased. In some cases, the logistics costs have been up 40–50%, and in some instances, we were unable to transfer some of those to customers, right? So this issue of global supply chain is going to be, unfortunately, with us for a long time.
And it comes at a bad time. It
Yes.
comes at a time when we need to be trading more within the African continent. So as you can see, I'm taking you to the African continent.
Let's go.
Where you are stepping back a little bit, I want to
Yes.
know what happened, and I want to know what your plans are, because we keep talking about infrastructure for the African continent.
Yes,
Of course,
yes.
that infrastructure now has evolved, no longer just the physical stuff, the railways and other things, but also the telecommunications aspect to it. You will be a key component, but you're stepping back.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, we are stepping back. We always need to understand the environment in which we are operating. If you look at in Africa, what happened during COVID-19, it helped us to have a better appreciation of what is demanded by who and where. And we realize that the most of our demand that's coming from the rest of Africa is predominantly hardware related. Hardware as in I'm selling a printer or I'm selling an ATM.
Right.
But as you can see, we're saying that we're Altron 2.0, we're moving into a capital light business. So those businesses of printers, we are selling those businesses. So what we are leading with as Altron, we're leading with services and software. And our services, our capabilities, we're finding that they are slightly ahead of what is required by those
continent.
markets, right? So it's never a good thing to be too much ahead of your market.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is saying that, okay, we will leave those entities, and some of them, those entities will leave behind, have our employees taking them over and form partnerships with this. So they will still remain connected with those entities. They can still sell the hardware that's required, and that hardware is not only going to be limited to what we offer. They can send anybody's hardware. So their existence can continue to be there, but for us, we can only help them with software and services.